I am Shane Jones, making headlines tonight. Employers warned to treat workers fairly or face the consequences. Barbadian entertainment icon Rihanna creates history once more. Heartfelt thanks for a hero who saved a little girl. And in sports, the Windies gearing up to face the Irish for a second time.
Broadcasting from our studios in the Pine St. Michael, this is CBC News Night, starting now.
Leading the news at 7, there are concerns tonight that some local employers need to do far better when it comes to issues related to termination of employees and adhering to the process of natural justice. Chairman of the Employment Rights Tribunal, retired Justice Christopher Blackman, made the comment today as Labor Minister Colin Jordan and members of the tribunal hosted a press conference to bring the public up to date on the tribunal's work. Our Ryan Broom was there and joins us live now in the news center with the details. Ryan, what's the real issue here?
Well, good night, Shane, good night, viewers. The retired Justice Blackman has some serious concerns about the practices of some employers who have come before the tribunal. Now, he gave a specific example using a just concluded case involving the Lodge School, in which a verbal edict was reportedly used as a method of compliance.
If you ring, you get a phone call from the Ministry of Education as to say, there's an edict. There's an edict that this must be. A request will be made. Could I have it in writing? I tell you there's an edict. If you don't comply with the edict, someone will not get put on Smart Stream to be paid. So as a consequence, sometimes to ensure that that body that suffer harm, you comply with the edict.
Now, the tribunal chairman says that, quite frankly, this is simply not good enough, and that situations like this should not be happening, especially in state-related entities.
2019 Barbados, governmental institutions cannot be operated by edict. That is not what the law, the courts, and principles of Barbados must be. If you want to, nobody in any ministry should be able to say there's an edict. If it's an edict, put it in writing. And if you put it in writing, you know what's open to you? Have it challenged by judicial review. I'm not asking you to flood the courts with more litigation, but it must be a proper process for employers, and particularly parastatal employers or agencies of the government. There can't be one rule for them and a rule for others. And as far as I sit in this chair, I am going to apply the rules as I see them, and I think that no of them ought to be applied.
Now, the chairman also says there are concerted efforts being made to expedite the matters. He says the members of the tribunal will be using a system of case management to help reduce the backlog of cases by year end by more than 30. He says that number will be even higher by next year. Now, meanwhile, Labour Minister Colin Jordan agreed with Mr. Blackman's position, and he says the new administration has sought to put fairness and transparency as two of the major planks of governance. He therefore reminded employers that in cases where they may not be able to afford a human resources department or manager, entities like the Barbados Employers Confederation can also be utilized. He says they also have another very knowledgeable resource available to them.
The trade union movement in Barbados, generally speaking, is a mature movement. It is a movement where an employer can also get some advice. It may be slightly biased, but I think you'll be able to understand, you know, there'll still be good advice that you can get from unions as well. I know because I've done it myself in a previous life. So I want to appeal to employers to first treat workers as human beings. So when you are dealing with a matter involving a worker, just assume it was your son, daughter, husband, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, cousin. Treat the person as a human being.
In short, be fair. I should note that Justice Blackman has been chairing the tribunal since the end of February. The tribunal currently has some 25 cases being actively engaged.
Right, let me jump in here. Earlier earlier you made the reference to the backlog of cases before the tribunal. So my question to you now is, how big is that backlog right now?
Well, Shane, the figure is currently around 200 or so, but I should note here that in addition to the approximately 30 cases that the tribunal is dealing with, they're expected to complete by the end of this year, there are also some cases that have become somewhat inactive. In other words, Justice Blackman says the tribunal has reached out to approximately 25 more people within that 200 backlog to respond to the tribunal by sending important information regarding their cases. To date, no responses have come. However, as he said, case management continues to be the main method of pushing off these cases. Back to you, Shane.
Thank you so much, Ryan. Comprehensive report there. Anglican Bishop, the Right Reverend Michael Maxwell, is clearing the air regarding the departure of Reverend Gillian Crawford as rector of St. Mary's Church. He says it has been drawn to his attention that some distorted information is currently being circulated on social media in relation to the parish of St. Mary. Bishop Maxwell says that since assuming office as bishop, he had meetings with Reverend Crawford and the parochial church council on some matters of discord. He says in his last meeting with Reverend Crawford, she felt that it was in her best interest to move on from St. Mary's to another assignment. It was, however, agreed that Reverend Crawford would continue as rector until the end of May. The bishop says he met with members of the PCC on Tuesday to inform them of the developments. He says Canon Wayne Isaacs will assume duty as priest in charge of St. Mary's from the 1st of June. The Barbados government has responded to an article in an international publication critical of the money being paid to UK advisory firm White Oak. A story in the Financial Times has been circulating heavily on social media over the past 2 days, referencing the $27 million being paid to the company for its services in assisting the island to restructure its debt. Press Secretary to Prime Minister Mia Amor-Motley Roy Morris says the government laid this contract with White Oak in Parliament several months ago in keeping with its commitment to full transparency.
The government has also made it clear on and off the floor of Parliament that the savings that have come to the country amount to $99.55 out of every $100 of debt restructured. In other words, it is only paying 45 cents for every $100 saved from the debt restructuring program. This amounts to more than $1 billion in savings per year for each of the next 3 years and beyond. This story is intended to distract and distort in order to put pressure on the government to cave in during the negotiations to restructure the foreign debt, and is clearly timed to coincide with the presence of an IMF mission being on the island.
Well, this story has been dominating the news cycle for the past week or so, both mainstream and on social media. It's the inspiring tale of heroic bus driver Dale Hall, who leapt into action when a Lodge School student fell ill on the bus. Now, you might remember he put the second former, Alicia Downs, who was having an asthma attack, on his back and ran to a nearby doctor's office where she was able to receive immediate attention. Hailed as a good Samaritan, this morning at the Lodge School, he was thanked for his selfless act.
Most of the mornings they put her inhaler and her chamber in her bag, but that particular morning we were hustling and she ran out the house without the inhaler. So I'm very grateful to you. On the behalf of my daughter, and Course Barbados, I want to present this token of appreciation to you and give you all my love and thanks.
In a truly touching moment, tears flowed freely as Hall was overcome with emotion when Alicia's mother Allison embraced him, personally thanking him for saving her daughter's life. April 30th is a day Alicia will never forget.
On behalf of my mother and I just want to say thank you for saving my life and keep up the good work.
Principal Winston Dorich told Mr. Hall the school is forever in his debt.
This instinctive act by Mr. Hall probably saved the young lady's life. Now, I'm guessing that driving a bus with as many as 60 or 70 school children on a daily basis cannot be an easy task. And that factor alone makes Mr. Hall's actions stand out even more.
Now to the man of the hour. Dale Hall is a former soldier and bus driver of 12 years. He says he just did what comes naturally to him. He also used the opportunity to remind the students of how they should behave on the bus.
If you're on the bus driver got able to hear, see what's going on, so you could get your children at school on time. If something happened, I'm responsible. I'm like a big parent to y'all. So all of these acts, I never say not to talk any bus, but for a little decency and good behavior till you get to the any destination, be it coming to school or coming from school. That's all I ask. But thank you all for acknowledging me, and I will continue to do deal. Whatever you see happening is deal. No pretense, nothing, just deal.
Among his gifts, a 3-month course at the UWI Open Campus on Occupational Health and Safety and dinner for 2 at Accra Beach Hotel. A special plea has been made for more love and attention to be given to the country's boys. It comes from Minister of People Empowerment and Elder Affairs, Cynthia Ford, during a National Children's Service for Child Month. More in this report from Lorna Jones.
The island gathered at the New Dimension Ministries in Barbers Hill for the special service. And in her address, Elder Affairs and People Empowerment Minister Cynthia Ford encouraged Barbadians to review the way boys are socialized. She says too often their emotional development is neglected and it's having a negative impact.
We feel that the boys should be rough and tumble. If you're to be a man, you got to be rough, man. And you see what the roughness is doing. We're turning out some boys who really need that love and attention, the hug, the kissing, the nice buzzwords, the whispering in the ear of wonderful things, and how handsome they are, and how capable they are to do responsible things. We must do it if we are to save our men in our society.
Many of these students recently completed the common entrance or are preparing for upcoming exams. And Minister Ford's advice to them was not to let the outcome of these exams define them for the rest of their lives.
You are all individuals who have that champion within you. Celebrate that champion in all that you do. Do not let the outcomes cause you to give up. If at first you don't succeed, try, and try again. Perseverance seldom fails.
The theme for Child Month is celebrating the champion in you. And true to the theme, many of the youngsters displayed their talents during the service. And while urging the children to celebrate the champion in themselves, Chairman of the Child Care Board, Catherine Jordan, called on the adults to play their part as well.
I want you to leave understanding and accepting and internalizing that there is a champion in each one of you. That's all I need you to remember, and the rest will grow out of that. The job of the adults in your life, your parents and your extended family, everybody, is to help you find it and to help you to celebrate it.
Many other activities are scheduled for the month, including 2 public education forums on the Child Care Board's foster care program and open days at day nurseries across the island. Lorna Jones, CBC News.
A video captured in the city of a woman hanging clothes on a guide wire linked to an electric pole has sparked a reaction from the Barbados Light and Power Company. The power company has reminded Barbadians of its safety around electricity messages and adhering to signage. Power quality analyst with the Barbados Light and Power, Howard Griffith, says the wire used wasn't energized.
Lucky for her, it was a line that goes to anchor rod on the ground. However, it can still be energized in the event we have bad corrosion and wires come and touch the guide wire. It can be energized because in the coastal areas things happen. But still we would want people to avoid even the stay wires, because I'm just like you. I was a little lost to see why somebody in 2019 would go and put some clothes on something that can potentially be an electrical wire.
8 of the 11 lucky winners of the Morning Barbados 11 Plus promotion collected their prizes this morning on the show. The promotion took place from April 15th to May 3rd. During Morning Barbados, students sitting the common entrance examination called in to answer grammar and mathematics questions for a chance to win one of the 11 tablets up for grabs. The Eden Lodge Youth Charitable Trust, the Embassy of the People's Republic of China in Barbados, and the Sandy Lane Trust are three of the major sponsors of the competition. President of the Eden Lodge Youth Charitable Trust, Dwayne Rosette, says this promotion was just a small part of the work that the charity puts into education.
We support and 11 plus program where we do lessons and stuff like that, and then we have our back to school program where we supply over 370 children across Barbados with school uniforms, bags, shoes, stationery, and that's where Cloister came into play. And then we give them lunches every week for the secondary school children who cannot afford. So it fits in well with what we do.
Marketing specialist here at the CBC, Nicole Collins, says the competition came off just as she had hoped.
We are really happy with the response and enthusiasm that the children and the parents, and we are really thankful to our sponsors, each and every one of them, for joining with us to make this promotion possible.
Barbados is playing host to the 2019 International Conference of the Wesleyan Church. Representatives drawn from dozens of countries are expected on the island for the conference, which gets underway on Sunday and runs up until Wednesday. General Superintendent of the Wesleyan Holiness Church of the Caribbean, Reverend Joel Cumberbatch, says the church stands as one worldwide and its evangelical mission is important. Gender-based violence will be a focus at the conference. Now, Reverend Cumberbatch was a guest on CBC TV8's program Morning Barbados.
The committee did commission our own Cheryl Wilby, who is known to Barbadians. She presented an excellent paper. And we will be, to some extent, considering that at this conference, looking at gender-based violence.
Staying true to the theme Everywhere to Everywhere, Executive Director of Global Partners, Reverend Dennis Jackson, says its work has expanded to more countries over the years.
The new works are starting from not North America, but from everywhere. So, for example, in Africa, after 100 years, we had work in 7 countries. All started by North American missionaries. Right. But in the last 15 years, we've gone from 7 countries to 23 countries, all started by missionaries, but African missionaries. Perfect. As they've crossed borders and started works.
Checking in with our regional neighbors now. Over in Jamaica, a joint select committee of Parliament has expressed concern over the practice of security force members informing criminals of imminent operations. However, the matter is being addressed within the context of anti-gang legislation. CVM-TV reports.
During its deliberations, a joint select committee of Parliament on the Criminal Justice Suppression of Criminal Organisations Act 2014, otherwise called the anti-gang legislation, referenced a request from MOCA to amend the Act to include specific penalties for law enforcement officers that tip off criminals.
And the proposal from MOCA is that there should be recognition and enhanced penalties for law enforcement personnel who are proven to be members of a criminal organization or are actively committing the offenses prescribed under the Act. Is there a tipping off offense in this Act?
Peter Bunting engaged attorney for the MOCA, Nigel Park, on the existence of a specific punishment for the offense.
Must be other law that would create an offense for tipping off. I imagine for police officers in particular who tip off criminals about investigations or about operations. That must be an offense.
The only one I can immediately recall is the tipping off offense in poker, but I'm not aware of any other tipping off offense in criminal legislation generally.
Veteran attorney Senator K.D. Knight recounted one instance from memory in which a policeman was placed before the courts for the offense.
Okay, listen to this story from Guyana. A woman was held after allegedly attempting to smuggle marijuana inside of blue soap to her fiancé inside the prison there. In the past, prison wardens have been arrested and charged for smuggling marijuana and cigarettes into the nation's jails.
Alert officers on duty at the Luzignan prison busted another contraband smuggler. 20-year-old Althea Douglas was caught with cannabis stuffed into bars of blue soap. Around 3:30 p.m. yesterday, she was preparing to visit her fiancé, who is currently in the holding bay at the prison, when officers conducted a detailed search of the bars on her person and found the marijuana concealed within them. According to police, it weighed 19 grams. Douglas has since been taken into police custody. Following this arrest, Acting Director of Prisons Gladwin Samuels reiterated the call to fighting contraband in prisons, saying, quote, "The public is hereby warned again to desist from smuggling prohibited items into the prison, as there are serious consequences to such actions," end quote. This is only the latest in a string of busts for the prison service, who have been intensifying their efforts to stem the tide of contraband in our nation's prisons.
St. Lucia is considering converting some of its secondary schools into sixth form colleges. Minister of Education, Dr. Gail Rijobe, says the move would ensure more students can undertake advanced level studies as they work towards their future careers.
It's a plan that would address the current limitations in A-level student numbers, ensuring that more students have access to advanced level studies. Dr. Gail Rigobert urged principals to weigh the merits of this plan.
This is not cast in stone as yet, but I want to table for your consideration and further engagement. And I would have mentioned that previously, but I'll mention it again, that we are giving thought to converting some of our current secondary schools into what we call sixth form schools. By that we mean that we can afford more students an opportunity to do CAPE versus the limited number of 100 or so who get to go to A-level college. Let me repeat, it is an ambition that is not yet cast in stone, because we will have to engage with the schools that are likely to be affected.
The Education Minister says the idea is in the very early stages and government is looking forward to the feedback from educators. She says there are many factors to consider, including a geographical spread of sixth form colleges to ensure equal access to A-level studies for students.
Those schools earmarked to become sixth form schools will receive the requisite support.